Hello, everyone. I am a former forensic officer and I run a YouTube channel that introduces real mysterious experiences encountered by American police officers. I have a spiritual sense and have collected many horror stories from police officers over the years. On this channel, I share the most terrifying experiences among them. Today, I'll talk about the strange phenomenon that occurred in an Airbnb where a police officer stayed, titled Footsteps in the Night. This story is based on my old diary entries, with some embellishments to make it a cohesive narrative. Please understand that some details have been added for storytelling purposes. I also want to thank my 2 grandchildren for putting this story into words, and my middle school grandchild, who always helps with video editing. Thanks to their efforts, I can share these experiences with all of you. Their support is invaluable in making these videos possible, and I am deeply grateful for their assistance. Now, enjoy this mysterious tale. When I was a police officer, I collected various experiences. Among them, this story, shared by a currently serving officer named John pseudonym, left a strong impression on me. John talked about a terrifying night he encountered during his duty. His story is a vivid reminder that even in the most routine of duties, the unexpected can happen, and sometimes it is beyond the realm of the natural. One day, John decided to take a rare vacation and booked an Airbnb for a relaxing time with his family. The location was a quiet suburb, surrounded by beautiful nature, and the house was a lovely cottage. John looked forward to spending a leisurely time with his family. The anticipation of a peaceful getaway was palpable. As the family had been looking forward to this break from their busy lives, the family arrived at the accommodation and was warmly welcomed by the hosts. The host was very kind and explained the house's amenities and nearby attractions in detail. John's family immediately liked the place, unpacked their luggage, and began exploring the house. As night fell, the family spent enjoyable time in the living room and gradually started preparing for bed. John thought the creaking sounds from the old wooden floors and stairs were natural. The house had a rustic charm, and the creaks added to its character. Once in the bedroom, they were enveloped in the comfortable bed and quiet environment, and the whole family soon fell asleep. However, that night, John was awakened by a strange sound. Checking the clock, it was past 2 a.m. The house was supposed to be silent, yet faint footsteps were heard from downstairs. Initially, John thought it was just the natural sound of the house and tried to go back to sleep, but the footsteps became more distinct, feeling like someone was walking around inside the house. The sound of each step seemed to echo through the quiet night, creating an eerie atmosphere. John's professional instinct as a police officer kicked in. Sensing something was wrong, he got out of bed quietly to avoid waking his family and prepared to go downstairs. With his heart pounding, he cautiously descended the stairs, one step at a time. The footsteps continued, heightening John's anxiety. While descending the stairs, John confirmed the footsteps were coming from the living room. He carefully advanced and slightly opened the living room door to peek inside. In the darkness, nothing seemed to be moving. However, the footsteps were definitely coming from there. The room was filled with shadows cast by the moonlight filtering through the windows, adding to the spooky ambience. Drawing on his experience as a police officer, John quietly entered the living room. Holding a flashlight, he advanced cautiously, illuminating the surroundings. He checked behind furniture, curtains, and every conceivable hiding place, but saw no one. Moreover, all windows and doors were securely locked, with no signs of external intrusion. To pinpoint the source of the footsteps, John stood in the center of the living room. Suddenly, he heard the footsteps again, this time from behind him. Startled, he turned around but saw no one. However, the footsteps had undeniably come from close by, as if an invisible person was walking around him. The sensation of being watched and the inexplicable sounds made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. John struggled to stay calm, but a chilling sensation ran down his spine. He searched the house again for clues but found nothing. The footsteps eventually ceased, restoring the room to silence. John stood there, trying to make sense of the situation, but his mind was in turmoil. After the footsteps stopped, John felt a brief sense of relief, but it was short-lived. Suddenly, a cold chill filled the living room. The room, which should have been warm, was now as cold as ice. John began to shiver and looked around to find the source of this cold air. The temperature drop was sudden and unnatural, heightening his sense of unease. The cold seemed to be coming from a specific direction. John moved towards it, discovering the cold intensified near the fireplace. The fireplace was, of course, unused and unlit. Despite this, it felt like the cold air was emanating from inside the fireplace. The closer he got, the more intense. The chill became as if the fireplace was a portal to another realm. John tried to look into the fireplace, but a cold wind blew from behind, pushing him back. It felt as though something was trying to keep him away from the fireplace. Surprised by the strength of the wind, John stepped back, but decided to approach the fireplace again. Alert to the abnormal cold, John carefully inspected the fireplace. He used the flashlight to illuminate the interior, but found nothing unusual. However, the cold remained strong, causing John to continue shivering. With the cold air lingering, John left the living room to inspect other parts of the house. Unable to find the source of the cold, he next headed to the kitchen. The kitchen appeared normal and was quiet, but the silence only added to the eerie atmosphere. Suddenly, a low whisper was heard next to John's ear. "Get out of here." It was clearly a human voice, but John had no idea who was speaking. He turned towards the voice, shining his flashlight around, but saw no one. The voice vanished as if it had never been, and the kitchen returned to silence. Despite the unsettling voice, John checked the spot where he had heard it, but found no clues. The voice seemed to disappear into thin air. John stood there, thinking about his next move, when he heard the voice again. "You shouldn't be here." The repeated warning filled him with an even deeper sense of dread. Unable to bear the eerie voice any longer, John left the kitchen and started checking the house again. He began to suspect something was hiding within the house. While John moved around the house, the cold and the voice's eeriness weighed heavily on his mind. He returned to the living room for another inspection. As he entered, the footsteps were heard once more. This time, they seemed to approach John directly. Reaching the peak of his fear, John stood still in the center of the living room, waiting for the footsteps to draw near. The footsteps stopped right next to him, bringing a deathly silence. At that moment, John felt a cold hand touch his shoulder. It was as if someone had placed their hand on him. The touch was chilling and unmistakable, sending a wave of terror through him. Startled by the cold touch, John turned around, but there was no one there. Yet, the sensation of the touch lingered. John stood there, thinking about what to do next. His mind a whirlwind of confusion. John became convinced something was lurking in the house. He realized it was warning him to leave. John decided to wake his family and leave the place immediately. Ensuring his family's safety, they left the Airbnb. This story recounts John's terrifying night. Despite maintaining his composure as a police officer, he faced unexplainable phenomena. His experience teaches us a lot. John felt the power of unseen entities and developed a respect for their presence. If you have had any mysterious experiences, please share them in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. We also appreciate any advice or feedback for my middle school grandchild, who helps with the video editing. Thank you, and see you next time.